Memo to self. Contact the good people at Mountain Dew regarding this flamin' hot flavor of theirs. Tell them to make more, because it's super good, and this is my last one, and I'm currently being attacked by a yellow jacket just for drinking it, so it seems popular. I'm Reverend Jeff Will Rumble, and I am here at the well, I'm Manker Flats, I think is the area. San Gabriel Mountains, Southern California. I remember all the way back in the olden days when I was growing up in Anaheim, on those rare occasions when there would be an actual winter storm, we would look up and there would be one mountain that stood out, that everyone saw, that everyone knew about, that you know, everyone knew this is the mountain that you would look at around the LA area, around Orange County, anywhere in that. I was in Anaheim, so Orange County. That was Mt Baldy. Turns out it's actually Mount San Antonio, but it was Mt Baldy. We knew the real name. Actually, the real name is San Antonio. Don't tell. But yeah, so this here, where I'm at right now, is the trailhead for the hike to Mt Baldy, and it's where I'm headed. Come on, let's go for a hike. So yeah, if you look up there, this hike is not short, and it's got a ton of elevation gain. So yeah, just starting out really. It's close to 11 miles and round trip, or the full loop, and then close to 4,000 feet of elevation gain. So we'll see how I do. Okay, so nice waterfall, but instead of going to see it, I'm going this way. So I've paused just a moment to take a breather. All Trails, this is where I've come from, by the way. All Trails tells me that I've come about 1.5 miles so far out of not quite 11. That's not terrible, I guess. It's been pretty relentlessly uphill, but again, All Trails says I've only climbed 600 and not quite 640 feet. So I've got a long way to go and a lot of up to go. Not quite sure whether I continue on up this way or back in through the gap there. I'll find out as I go. Just a 1/4 mile or so past my last stop, but this seems like something here that we should notice. I'm about to enter the Mt Baldy resort area where the ski mountain is. So I'll continue on here for a ways and then I think out the other side of it. The reason I mention that is that I have a bit of an ulterior motive for doing this hike today. I'm remembering a friend who passed away like just a couple of months ago. In fact, she passed away while I was on my fishing trip down in Baja, and her name is Pat. She's someone who came to my church a number of years ago, just one of those souls who wanted a place to fit in and belong. And I am so proud of my church for the way that we welcomed her and loved her. Pat, at times, it could be a challenge to love her. She was sweet as honey one day and prickly like cactus the next. She was feisty, and just, you know, one day you get the rose, the other day you get the thorns, and it was a little hard to tell. And we did our best to love her, because it turns out just an absolutely beautiful golden soul who just wanted to love God and be loved by people, and you know, wanted her place, her sense of community and family that could be her home. And so, again, she passed away. She was, I think, 89. One of the interesting things, when I met her, she was already pretty limited in terms of her mobility, walked with quite a bit of stiffness and lurch and problems with balance and problems with, well, I guess hips and backs and all kinds of things. But in her younger days, she was quite a skier. Spent a fair amount of time skiing in Europe and such, and in her things we found a map of the Mt Baldy ski area. So that's why this is my hike remembering her today. And there's folks hiking up and down the lift lines. That's good stuff. I'll be going this way, I think. I should check the AllTrails. Should mention, a little while back, down this way where I came from, I ran across a guy going the other direction. Double amputee, no legs below his knees, but he had the artificial legs and he had the two crutch things, and he was going for it. So much respect for that guy. I've got a fused ankle. It's a single ankle, it's fused, it's in a brace. It's quite functional, very functional. That guy has challenges and he's going for it. He's out there going for it. Just love that, and I told him so. Really wonderful. All right, on my way again. So I believe this here is what's called top of the notch. Again, I apologize for the wind. I'll try to cut through it with my voice. So I'm roughly halfway in terms of distance to the peak. Got more than that still to go in altitude. I've gained about 1,600 and some, and total gain should be more like 4,000. But AllTrails says that this is my direction, so on I go. Okay, so I've made it to the ridge. This looks out toward the Mojave Desert. This looks back toward Southern California. And this is where I will head, continuing on uphill. I think I'll pause and breathe for a moment or two first. So this is the very top of the ski area. I'm about to leave the boundary of the ski area. The sign on the tree above me here says that it's the ski area boundary. This over here is the trail where I'm headed, and I don't know if you can really see a little bit through the trees up here. View of kind of the peak, at least the best I think that we can see of it. I believe that's where I'm headed. Either that or it's on beyond. The thing is, I've got about 2 more miles to go. I've come about 4.5, so something like 2 miles of distance to travel. I've come up about 2,500 feet, so I've got about another 1,500 feet of elevation still to gain. This next portion of the trail is referred to as the Devil's Backbone. I don't know what the devil has to do with it. I'm pretty sure it's basically a sharp, spiny ridge, but they call it the Devil's Backbone. I mean, I think, you know, what maybe the devil had a hand in. I've out this way in the Mojave Desert, you'll find things called a creosote bush. Those things, ugly, nasty thorns that grab you and rip at you if you brush them at all. I mean, I'm pretty sure the devil could have had a hand in making those. And those little tiny mosquitoes that bite our ankles, I'm pretty sure the devil was involved there too. And maybe the creation of the Dallas Cowboys, you know, because they're no darn good. But yeah, this seems like the ridge that I'm headed up, and the wind is really strong, so I don't know to what degree I'll be able to talk on camera at all up there. We'll see. So okay, Devil's Backbone. This is it here. And that seems to be where I'm headed, or someplace close. Which, yeah, interesting. See how it goes. Looking back on the Devil's Backbone, I've made it to a spot here now with a little bit of shade and shelter from the wind, which is nice. I actually, fear of the wind blowing the hat off my head, took that off and put my little towel rag thing in the pack and all. This is all way down where I've come from. That's a good bit down below me. Let me take a quick look at all trails and see what it says. It says that I've come 5 miles, so it'll be about 6.5-ish to get to the peak. I've come 2,735 feet, and it's not quite 4,000 to the peak, so I've got a good bit more there, another 1,000 plus of feet of altitude to gain. But still, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. One more mile and a half or so. So I think I've got the destination in my sights, finally. I've only got about another 600 or 800 feet to climb, maybe a mile to go. And through the trees there, well, not through the trees right now. Had a nice view of it a second ago. Okay, so we'll pretend that the destination's in our sights. You know how to pretend, right? There we go. Kind of see it there, I think. Yeah. That's better. All right. Looks like I'm ready for the final, I don't know, do we call it an assault, an ascent? Pick your favorite word. I do expect to stop about 1,000,000 times for things like, you know, breathing and stuff. But this is the last bit that's going to take me up to the top. Sorry to be looking into the sun the way I am. This just seems like the hike that never ends. Keep going up, keep adding distance, and it's still ahead of me. It is hard, I am tired, it is late. But I can see my quarry, and it certainly looks closer than it did. And yeah, for the moment I'm in a wind-sheltered spot. Once I'm out in the wind is really strong. But I'm going to be there pretty soon. Pretty sure of that. Won't be too long. Sorry about the wind noise. What's this here? On our way down. So working my way downhill is so much easier. See, Seems like there's enough oxygen. Not having to grind out the effort with the uphill, because that's, you know, work. It's pretty steep, so it's going to crunch my toes into the front of my boots. Other than that, though, I just need to be sure that I'm quick enough that I make it back down to the falls before the sun goes down. I'd kind of like to be able to see where I'm going when on a trail that I'm not familiar with. And I've got headlamps, a couple of them. Always a good idea to be redundant on things like that. Have more than one in case, you know, the one you're using doesn't work as well or runs out. But still, be extra nice to get there before sundown. If you're not in the habit of, well, here's our start. As I start talking, the wind comes up. Sorry about that. Again, I've apologized for that way too often, but it's what it is. What I was going to say is, if you're not in the habit of doing serious hikes, which this is, you might not have thought of how strenuous and challenging it can be sometimes to pick your way down a trail that's really steep without just, you know, slipping out or rolling your way down it, keeping your footing. So a lot of people use hiking poles. I've got them, but I tend to like having my hands free just so that I can hold on to stuff, and you know, I come along like this, and if it's steep enough, that's a help. I mean, I didn't really need that one. That's an example. But in any event, continuing on. Yep, that's where we were just a little while ago, working our way on down. So this is the San Antonio Ski Hut, also known as the Sierra Club Ski Hut, I believe. Interesting story on this. It was not actually built by the Sierra Club, built by a local hiking club, and they hauled materials up the mountain by hand in order to build the original. I mean, I have no idea, you know, has it been refurbished, how's it been maintained? I really don't know any of those details, but my understanding is, as I'm told, this local hiking club, they hauled the materials up the mountain by hand and then eventually donated this to the Sierra Club. And I know this because a friend and member of my church, an amazing guy, talks about it all the time, named Bud Halley is his name. And Bud talks about this. It was a labor of love for him and the group, and he's just pleased as punch, I guess, is maybe a term that he would understand about it. So yeah, I see a big old smiling picture of Bud anytime I walk through the halls at Presbyterian Hospital as well. He did a lot of volunteering there. Interestingly, his 100th birthday celebration is coming up in just a couple of weeks. 100 years of Bud Halley, which is great. He's a wonderful character, just a great guy, and to be honest, that has me. Well, I'll talk about that in a second here. Quick little bit of clarification on the history there. The Ski Mountaineers, or Ski Mountaineering Section as it came to be called, started as an independent club and dedicated to, of course, skiing and mountaineering. That was a year-round group, so summertime they would do some hiking and some rock climbing and that kind of thing, but they especially loved the skiing, and they would hike up the mountain and then ski down, which no chairlifts, no gondolas, no nothing. Hike up, ski down, which seems a little crazy to a more modern way of thinking and skiing, but that's what they did. And they decided that they wanted to build that ski hut. Problem is, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the leverage in terms of permits and getting opportunity permission to build it there in the forest on that mountain. So what they did is they linked up with the Sierra Club and actually became a part of the Sierra Club. So it was the ski mountaineering section, the SMS, and they continue to exist to this day. In fact, if you'll Google San Antonio Ski Hut, you will find reference to them on the Sierra Club page. So they do still exist. But they built that original ski hut in like 1936, 1937. So back then, it is a historical thing, 1936, 37. And that was great, except that a year or two later, it burned to the ground, burned, gone. And they decided pretty quickly they wanted to rebuild and to do it again. And so once again, they, by hand, went to carry all the materials up the mountain and just haul it up themselves. And Bud was a part of that rebuilding. He was a little on the young side to be part of the original. But for the rebuilding after the fire, Bud was a part of that. And his claim to fame, I'm told, is that he carried up the kitchen, the stove that's in the kitchen. And he carried it up in 3 parts because it was heavy and carried in 3 parts, so 3 trips up. But he carried up the stove. And the ski hut does still exist today and is still in largely the same condition that it was when it was built. And so that's history, and that's Bud, and there you go. Pretty wonderful stuff. Okay, sorry about that. Needed to be sure that I was finding the right trail to continue on. Taking a moment to think of Bud and smile about him, and looking forward to his big 100th birthday, just has me thinking of all the amazing folks that I have met and had the opportunity to get to know over the years. And in particular with starting today thinking about Pat, but that list is long. You know, I think of Al, and I think of John, and I think of Ron, and I think of Ray, and I think of Roger, and I think of Dick and Joanne, and I think of Tom, and that list just, Mary. God brings wonderful people into our lives, and we are so blessed to know these just amazing people. I more and more want to keep reminding myself just to appreciate the people that he brings into our lives. And by the way, those that I've mentioned, those are all connected with my current church. There's so many others that I know from other areas of my life. So, and I think 2 things. One is I want to be sure and appreciate and thank God for the gift of these people that he's brought into my life. But also, I want to think that if they can be a blessing in my life, maybe I also can be a blessing in the lives of others. And you know, how much I should care about that, and how much I should try, and how much we can all do that sort of thing. So, you know, because if we're all looking to not just appreciate the blessings that others are toward us, but also be blessings toward others, then we got something. Then we've got a way to honor the gift that God gives us. And so I guess that ends the sermon for the day. And I need to hit the stop button and pay a little more attention to getting off the mountain, because I'm starting to lose the light. So it's Monday morning, and my legs are still sore. That was a hike. That was a hike. Um, I'm doing this morning because I really did run out of light on the way on down the hill after I left the ski hut. It's the trail even before that, and definitely after as well. Did this thing where it would sort of disappear and then find it again a little ways down, and then it disappeared, find it a little ways down. I had the All Trails app that kept me on track on my phone, that kept me on track for most of the day. But as right about the same time that I lost the light and had to put on a headlamp in order to see the trail and not fall, I also, my phone ran out of juice, and so I no longer had the All Trails app because the phone was dead. So for the last mile and a half, it was headlamp and picking my way down and finding my way, and it obviously worked. I'm here today. But that made for some fun. I think if I ever do that hike again, what I'll do is go the other direction. So instead of going up the Devil's Backbone Trail, I'll go and down the Baldy Bowl Trail. I'll go up the Baldy Bowl Trail and then around down the Devil's Backbone and from the ski resort on back to Manker Flats and the waterfall there, and just go in that direction. So it's sort of a what I guess go counterclockwise. No, go clockwise rather than counterclockwise. Counterclockwise is what I did around that loop. So I just think that would be better, especially toward the end of the day. If you're going to lose the light, you want to be on a fire road rather than picking your way through a trail that keeps disappearing on you. But it was a wonderful hike. Very challenging in terms of just the distance and the steepness, both uphill. Downhill is a whole lot of work on the legs too, picking your way down when it's that steep. Not so bad on a flatter trail, but that steep downhill is work. It gets hard. It wears you out. So yeah, great hike. Ton of beauty along the way, and great opportunity to think about and to remember friends and what what a blessing it is that God gives us great people in our lives. So hope you enjoyed this. Glad you came along for the watch, and yeah, it's another adventure coming. There's always another adventure coming.